Hey, everybody. Welcome today. We're so glad you're here. I'm Ryan O'Shea, one of the founding partners here at Garda Wealth. And this is my business partner, Dale Clark, who's on with me. I'm guessing you're here because estate planning has been sitting in the background for a while. You know it matters. We all do. But you're not exactly sure where to start or how to get it done without it becoming really expensive or really complicated. Before we get started, I want to give you something that will make this session more valuable and useful. We've put together an estate planning essentials checklist that shows you what a complete plan actually includes. So then you can see what's in place, what might be missing, what may need further attention. If you just scan the QR code that's on your screen, or right below it is the URL link, you can go download that. It'll only take you a minute, and it'll give you an easy way to follow along as we go, and something you can come back to afterward as well.
Thanks, Ryan. And I got to tell you, I'm really excited that everybody is here today. I think you've joined a really great session, perhaps one of my favorite of the year. You're also in for a real treat because we have here a host, Court Pitcher, who's a good friend of mine. I've known him for 20 years. And he's also the marketing director at Garda Wealth. He's also a co-founder of Legacy Lock and the Legacy Lock estate planning software, which is the platform we're going to walk through today. What's interesting about Court is that he didn't come into the estate planning area through a traditional route. He felt called to this work after witnessing two tragic events, which he'll share with you shortly. His focus has been helping families move from something that feels overwhelming or unfinished to something that's clear, simple, and simply just fully handled. And that's what today is really about. It's not about theory, it's not about complexity. It's just a practical way to get your estate planning done finally, and done right. So with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Court.
Thank you so much, Ryan and Dale. Such a pleasure to work with you. I sure love you guys and love what we're doing. It's fun to help our clients with this essential planning. I'm excited to go through this today. We appreciate those of you that are attending. First thing I'm going to talk about is the macro planning method. So here at Garda Wealth, we have integrated the macro planning method to be able to offer even more to our clients. And so the macro planning method is something that I want to start off talking about. When I first came into this industry about a little over 20 years ago, I started meeting with clients and helping them through a holistic planning process. And it was really interesting because I discovered pretty quickly that most people were going about making financial decisions and financial moves with their money by working with what we call micro specialists. So what I mean by that is, like, for example, if someone were going to go buy a house, they would go find a real estate agent and work with that real estate agent to buy their house. Then they might go find a mortgage broker to help them with the mortgage. Then they would go find a different micro specialist to help them with their home and their auto insurance. And then they might go find someone to help them set up life insurance or health insurance or even disability insurance. Then they might go find an investment advisor to help them with investments. They may go work with a CPA or an accountant to help them with their taxes. And then they may go find someone to help them with their estate planning. But by working with all these micro specialists, it makes it so things weren't aligned very well. It just made it so people weren't being served in a way where everything was totally aligned and coordinated. And I've asked clients for many, many years, over and over again, have you ever been able to get all these micro specialists in a room at the same time, talking and coordinating and making decisions that are truly optimal for you? And to this day, I've never had a client say yes. Well, that's what we're bringing to you through Garda Wealth and this macro planning method is a team of experts that can help you in all these different areas. And we are talking and we are coordinating and making sure that everything that you do is truly to your optimal benefit. Now, typically when we meet with clients, we like to start with the estate and legacy planning. The reason we like to start there doesn't mean we have to, but the reason that we like to start there is because it allows us to create a foundation and create the framework that's necessary and essential for all these other areas. For example, if we were helping you with setting up some life insurance policies, or we're helping you with your investment or retirement accounts, you need to name beneficiaries. Some assets you need to name not only beneficiaries, but there's an owner and a beneficiary. And so by setting up that estate plan, it makes it easier to name your trust as the owner or beneficiary of that asset. Plus, your trust will dictate everything that you want to have happen with those assets. So that's why we typically start there. And what I'm going to talk about today is how to make legacy planning easy. Okay, we've provided a great solution, and I'm really excited to share that with you. As Dale mentioned, I'm one of the founders of Legacy Lock, our estate planning company, and I'm one of the co-creators of our process called the legacy planning process, which I'm going to elaborate on more here today. I want to start with what I refer to as some unforgettable dates. January 30th, 2005 and February 25th, 2005, almost about a month apart. I had two friends pass away, and those incidences were very tragic and obviously really, really difficult. But being close to both families, I had noticed and observed some very interesting things. One of my friends had done little to no planning, and as a result of that, it left his poor wife trying to navigate, some difficult legal and financial challenges, all while mourning and grieving the loss of her husband and trying to take care of her young children. It was a really, really hard situation for her, probably the hardest thing she'd ever been through at that point in her life. The other friend, on the other hand, was the exact opposite. He and his wife had been more proactive and intentional in doing some really good planning. And so as a result of that, I noticed that his wife, it was a totally different outcome for her. She and her children were able to mourn and grieve as they should, but there was no extra anxiety or stress about, where do we go from here? The path was paved, and they were able to move forward that way. So here I was at the time in my early 30s. I was married, had a couple kids, and I had not done any planning at all. So my wife and I went and met with a good friend of mine that was in this industry, and we told him what happened with our friends, and then we said, so we're learning from that. We want to take some action and make sure we do some good planning. And he said, that's great. I commend you for doing it. So we said, where do we start? And that's where he introduced us to what he referred to as a holistic planning process. We now call it the macro planning method. We also call it the legacy planning process. They all kind of mean the same thing in that we're dealing with and planning for everything holistically. Well, I loved everything I learned, and through that process, I realized I had a really strong passion for this and wanted to get into the business so that I could help more people avoid what my one friend and his wife went through and help more people get on a path more like my other friend. So here at Garda Wealth, we are on a mission to help as many people as we possibly can do some really, really good planning that'll make a difference in your life, as you continue on in life, but also make a difference when things transfer to your heirs. Also, once I got into the business and started doing holistic planning, I realized pretty quickly that a lot of people wanted to get their estate planning done, but there wasn't a great solution to help the masses. And I found that there were some reasons why people weren't taking action. And again, it wasn't because they didn't want to get it done. A lot of people really wanted to get it done, but these are some of the reasons why people didn't take action. Some people felt like it was an intimidating process. Going into a law firm, meeting with attorneys and things like that, for some people that was just intimidating. The big one was attorney fees. That turned away and turned off a lot of people when they would find out how much it was going to cost. Some people found it was an uncomfortable topic. It was just, for various reasons, just difficult to talk about. Some people felt like it was too complicated. And I learned that a lot of times the attorneys were making it more complicated than it needed to be just to justify their outrageous fees. And then all this naturally just led to more and more people procrastinating. That became a concern for me. It frustrated me that people weren't being offered a really good solution. So these experiences motivated us to create a better solution, which we call the legacy planning process. People ask me all the time, they'll say, Court, so what is the legacy planning process? What makes it better or more valuable than just typical estate planning? And my answer is legacy planning is everything estate planning should be, but is not. I also learned pretty early on in my career that a lot of people, when they would go and get their estate planning done, most of the time those firms would only provide their estate documents. There were other key steps that needed to take place, but they wouldn't help them with those things unless they were willing to pay additional fees. So I call them the gaps or the holes in the process. And so the legacy planning process fills those gaps and fills those holes to bring you a complete planning process that helps make sure everything gets done properly. There's 3 steps in our legacy planning process, and I'm going to go through and touch on and cover those right now. The first step is we will help you create your customized estate documents. Little over 10 years ago, me and my partner, we partnered with some attorneys and we developed an estate planning software technology. Once that estate planning software was developed and completed, that took our footprint from Utah and Arizona to all 50 states. So we have clients all over the country that we have helped with their estate planning documents. And it's important to note that all of our documents are specific to the laws of each state. And again, we have the ability to customize those documents and customize your plan according to your situation and your overall objectives. What is included in our estate document package? So we provide a last will and testament that helps spell out your wishes. And also one thing that's very important in there is if you have minor children, this gives you the ability to name guardians for minor children. That's a very important thing because if you do have minor children and you haven't done any estate planning yet, that can be something that could be concerning. If something were to happen to you, you pass away unexpectedly, and if you don't have a will and trust in place, then your children can actually be turned over to the state. The state steps in and gets involved, and then hopefully surviving family members would step forward and, go through a legal process of getting custody of your children. With the last will and testament and the trust, it makes it so that you can appoint who you would want to take care of your children if you were gone. And it's your choice so that you know and feel comfortable with who that would be. Then there's the revocable living trust. Now, there's different types of trusts, but when we developed our estate planning software, we decided to focus primarily on revocable living trust because that's what fits most people. I would say 95% of the population, this is the type of trust that fits their situation. A revocable living trust is very flexible, it's fluid, it can be changed, it can be updated, and it's something that you maintain control of. So that's why we typically focus on helping people get in place a revocable living trust. The other thing that's important to know about a trust is it's important to have in place in order to avoid probate when you pass away. There may be some of you on here that you or someone you know has experienced the probate process. It's not always fun. It can be expensive because you usually have to hire an attorney, you have to pay court fees, and it can also be very time consuming and stressful. So the way to avoid probate is to set up a trust And as long as your assets are properly aligned within the trust, then it'll completely void probate when you pass away. Attorneys refer to that as the funding of the trust. And so that just means to properly align your assets in the trust, where the trust is either the owner or the beneficiary of your assets. We also provide a certificate of trust. That certificate of trust is a summary of the more detailed revocable living trust. So once your trust is set up and you start aligning your assets into the trust, a lot of times the financial institutions will ask for a copy of the trust. So rather than giving them the detailed copy, you can just give them that certificate of trust that typically suffices for what they need. We also provide a financial power of attorney, which is a document that is used if you become incapacitated. So if you're incapacitated and you're unable to handle your basic finances, then that document allows whoever you appoint as your agent the ability to use that document and have authority to handle, all of your finances and things like that. That's a document that is an individual document. So if you're married, each spouse will have their own financial power of attorney. And we typically name each spouse the primary agent for the other. And then we usually name an alternate to step in case both of you are incapacitated. Then that alternate agent can step in and handle, all the finances. The other document we provide is a healthcare power of attorney. Again, this gets used if you become incapacitated, and whoever you appoint as your agent would be the person that would have authorization to make healthcare decisions in your behalf. Again, that is an individual document. So if you're married, each spouse will have their own. Typically, we name each spouse as the primary agent for the other, and then we name an alternate in case both of you are incapacitated. And then the other critical document is what's called the Advanced Healthcare Directives. So this document becomes your voice in the event that you are incapacitated and cannot communicate. To be more specific with that, what I'm saying is if you have a terminal condition where you cannot communicate, or you're in a coma or a vegetative state that doctors believe to be irreversible or incurable, then this document stipulates what you would want to have done if you were in that type of situation. So very, very important document to have. In working with us and going through the legacy planning process, one of the things that we have you do is fill out some forms, send those back to us, and then we go in and activate a Legacy Lock account for you. That comes with a secure username and password so that you can log in and see everything that we're setting up for you with your plan. So it makes it very transparent. It's really nice. In your Legacy Lock account, you can access a secure document vault. Once you get your documents signed and witnessed and notarized, you can upload those documents into your document vault. Now, this vault comes with unlimited document storage. So we urge all of our clients to upload and store and organize any important document that would need to be accessed when you pass away. Get it in there. That's the place to store it. And by doing that, it'll make it so much easier for your successor trustee after you pass away to just log into your account and access all of those essential documents that they're going to need to get their hands on. So that's pretty cool. All our clients love that we provide that document vault. All right, step 2. This is what we call the funding of the trust. So funding assets into the trust. As I mentioned earlier, we like to call it asset alignment. So we want to make sure everything is properly aligned within your estate plan or in your trust. I like to use this visual that you see here on the screen with all my clients. I like to compare setting up the trust to like having an empty safe. Okay, if you were to go out and buy a safe, put it in your home somewhere, it's probably because you have the intent to put some valuable things in there to protect those valuables. Okay, does no good to go buy an empty safe and not put anything valuable in it. Same with your trust. So if the trust is like an empty safe, well, we need to make sure that we get those valuable assets properly positioned or structured or aligned within the safe. So we take a proactive role in helping you get your real estate into the trust, your bank accounts, your retirement accounts, your life insurance, businesses, if you own any businesses. We help make sure that all those get properly structured in the trust. Now each of these different assets kind of play by a different set of rules. So we make sure that we go through and address them and give you specific instructions on, what exactly needs to be done with each type of asset. This is one of those areas, as I mentioned earlier, where there were some gaps and holes that I discovered, when I first came into the business. And so this is one of those gaps and holes that we are filling, and it's all part of our process. So we make sure that we help you with this important step. This part right here is the key to making sure that when you pass away, your estate completely bypasses probate. That way, nobody has to deal with the probate courts. Again, going back to your legacy lock account, another unique thing in there is you have access to what we call our funding kit or asset organizer. So if you look on the right-hand side here of the screen here, I like to call this our digital filing cabinet. If you click on any of those sections, it brings a drop down, which is what you see here on the left-hand side of the screen. This is an example of clicking on section 4, which is vehicles. And so this gives you the ability to go in and enter in detailed information about each of your vehicles. If you were to click on section 3, it would bring a drop down that would allow you to go in and put in information about all of your bank accounts. If you click on section 6, that's where you can list information about your life insurance policies. Section 9 is on retirement plans and investment accounts. So there's a number of things there that you can see that allows you to go in and put information about those different assets and have it all nicely organized in this digital filing cabinet. So again, the reason we created the vault was to give you the ability to store and organize all of your important documents. And the reason for the funding kit and the asset organizer is to give you a way to organize all of your asset information. That way, when you pass away, your successor trustee logs in, accesses all your key documents in the vault, locates all of your asset information in the asset organizer, and then it just makes it so much easier for them to move forward in settling the estate. Okay, step 3. This is where we take legacy planning to a whole other level. This is where we go above and beyond for you. And this is what we call the protection and optimization step. Okay, in this step, we're going to talk about how to protect your assets in the event of an unexpected lawsuit. What I mean by that more specifically is we are going to do some analysis on how your home and auto insurance is structured. Most of the people that we meet with, their coverages on their insurance is not properly structured to be able to fully protect all of your assets. So we're going to take a close look at that, review your coverages, and make sure that they are structured in a way that it completely protects all your assets if you were to get sued. If something happened and you got in an accident and it was your fault and there was a serious liability and there's potentially lawsuits coming, again, we want to make sure that your assets are completely protected from that. We also want to look at strategies to help with an unexpected disability. So if I tell people all the time, a catastrophic health event can erode your wealth faster than almost anything. And so we want to make sure that we have a conversation about that and look at options and strategies to put in place so that if that were to ever occur, it wouldn't disrupt your whole plan. The other thing we look at is unexpected death. I shared my story about the 2 friends earlier. One of those friends did not have much life insurance in place. The other friend had a good amount of life insurance in place. And so that made a big difference for both their families in different ways. Guard of Wealth has served many of you and many others in helping get get life insurance in place. And so that's an important thing as well. We also can help with cash flow optimization. Many of you on here have probably met with Dale and been through his cash flow index strategy. And we also have another proprietary software that helps optimize your cash flow. That's done by one of the specialists on our team. It's an amazing software, and we're getting incredible results with clients that are using that. But also, if you're getting close to retirement or you're in retirement, we can look at income optimization for Social Security, pensions, as well as other assets that you might have to help you create a good income plan in and through retirement. We also, this is a big one that comes up a lot when we do this planning, is how can we help people mitigate taxes? And so we have specialists on our team that can help mitigate taxes through various strategies, and that's a really fun one that we can help with. And then the last, or actually second to last, this one is also unnecessary market risk. So we can talk about strategies to help mitigate market risk and things like that. And then the last thing here is what Garda Wealth refers to as the private family bank. This is a fun conversation to have because we can help, if you don't already have it, we can help you set up a private family bank, which can help create, it becomes a great asset that's a part of your overall plan, that can help you as you continue on through your life, but also it can help create generational wealth for your heirs and your future generations. So that's the 3 steps of our process. If you could find a firm out there that does the legacy planning process like we do, which I will say it'd be pretty hard to find, but if you could find a firm out there that does what we do, you would likely pay anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 on the low end. Okay, 5 to 10 grand on the low end. The nice thing about working through Garda Wealth and Legacy Lock is you can get all this whole process and get all of this done for only $19.95. So it's a one-time fee of $2,000 to get all those documents in place and set up the way that you want. Get all your assets properly funded or aligned with your trust, and get the benefit of going through that 3rd step of protection and optimization. The other valuable thing about working through us is once your documents are set up, anytime you want to make changes or updates to those documents, it's free for the rest of your life. As long as it's a change or an update that we can make within our software, it's free for the rest of your life. If it's something unique that we cannot do in the software, then we have paralegals and attorneys that we can turn to that will draft additional amendments, and usually they charge around $200 for those amendments. But most of the time, our clients have simple changes and updates that need to be made, and that can be done within our software. And like I said, that's free for the rest of your life. So that's a tremendous value because, most attorneys are going to pay a higher, or they're going to charge a higher upfront fee. And then anytime you need to make changes or updates, you'll either pay a big retainer or you'll pay their hourly rate, which, as we all know, isn't cheap. So that's a tremendous value. Now, I always like to be fully transparent with any other potential fees that could come your way within this process. Whenever we help you with the deed work on your real estate, we work with a third-party company that's all they do is deed work all across the country. And so we can help you get that deed work done for $75 per deed, which is a really, really good deal. Most of the time you're looking at paying anywhere from $300 to $500 per deed. And then the only other fees that come into play is once the deed is prepared, it then needs to be recorded with whatever county the property is in, and those counties charge a recording fee. And that recording fee varies from county to county all over the country. So I know in my county, they charge $40, not a big deal. It's really important to do that so that everything is done properly. But those are the only additional fees that can come into play with this. I hope this has been a good educational thing for you, and I hope you can see the value of what we're doing here. We look forward to working with you should you choose to engage in this process with us.
Thanks, Court. I really appreciate your passion and excitement. You can really see it as you kind of shared this message. And I can say that my son, who's 25, and his wife recently went through this process with Legacy Lock, and they just can't keep telling me how excited they were to have this finally handled. And so I hope everyone else enjoyed today's webinar as well. You've seen how estate planning gaps really build quietly over time, how they only show up when something needs to be handled quickly, clearly, and without confusion. And that's the difference between having just your documents in place and having a plan that actually works when your family needs it. So that's why we put together an estate planning consultation that we'd like to share with you all. It's really a simple conversation to help you see where you stand and what a complete plan could look like for you. And when you schedule, you'll be speaking directly with Casey Carlson. He's the guy that worked with my son. He's our legacy planning strategist. Casey has worked with people for over a decade in helping them navigate their estate planning, often during some of the most difficult times of their life. And he does bring a lot of experience, perspectives to these conversations, so you can move forward with clarity, not uncertainty.
Oh, so one of the questions that came up is it legal to work with digital copies of documents in a vault versus physical signed documents? I'm glad you asked that question. I want to clarify that when we take you through this process, we do print the documents. We put them in a nice binder, and then we ship them out to you with instructions on getting them signed and witnessed and notarized. So you will actually have a hard copy of your documents. We just think we created the vault, the document vault, so that you could then, once you have everything signed and witnessed and notarized, you can scan and upload a digital copy into your document vault. So that way you have your hard copy with wet signatures on it in the binder, and then you have a digital copy backed up and saved in your document vault. Another question here. Does the fee include each couple or is it per individual? So the fee is per trust. So if it's a couple that's doing a trust, it's $19.95. If it's just an individual doing a trust, it's $19.95. So hopefully that makes sense. Someone asked, how secure is our website for all of the documents? Great question. This is a question comes up a lot. We have never had any breach into our software. Our developers set it up at bank level, military grade encryption. But also, it's important to know that we don't collect any information on like with your social security numbers. We don't ask for bank account numbers or things like that. Now, if you were to scan and upload some documents in the vault that maybe have that information on it, you certainly can, and many people do. But as far as the security with our technology, it's bank level, military grade type security. Ooh, this is another good question. How can this help someone like myself that already has a trust and other documents in place? Glad this question came up. So we can even help you if you already have a trust set up. If there's some changes and updates that you would like to make, we can actually do that through our system, through our software, help you make those changes and updates. And we do that we set it up so that what we call it is it's a restated and amended trust. So your new documents will show the current name and date of your trust, but it'll show that it's being restated and amended on whatever date that we do that, which is important to have on the documents for contestability purposes. So, but anyways, we can help, we can work with you if you have an existing trust, help you make changes, updates, make sure all of your assets have been properly funded or aligned with the trust, and also help you in step 3 with the protection and optimization of your assets. So someone also asked, when there are questions along the way, who is available to assist? So as we mentioned earlier, you'll work with Casey Carlson, who's the legacy planning strategist on our team. You'll love Casey. He's an incredible guy, just a good guy to work with. He'll take great care of you, and if you have questions along the way, you can always turn to him. You can email him, you can call him, and he'll be there to help. Someone else asked, can a trust that I set up for free be amended afterwards to include new changes and or additions? And the answer is yes. We can do that. For those of us with existing docs, what is the fee structure? Again, the fee structure is the same. It's $19.95, but that's a one-time fee to be able to get access to our software and our system. But then once you need, from that point on, anytime you want to make changes or updates, it's free for the rest of your life, again, as long as those changes or updates can be done in our software. Someone asked, are there estate planning attorneys on your team? Again, our software was developed with our estate planning partners, but our estate planning software was developed in a way to where we don't need to pull in any attorneys on our team to assist in the planning. It's all designed to where we guide you through the process. We ask the questions and we put in your answers in terms of what you want. If there is ever a point where we need to consult with an attorney on our team, then we have access to them. We can go to them and get questions answered and come back to you with those answers. We've been doing this for over 10 years, and there's most of the time we're able to handle everything on our own. It's pretty rare that we have to then pull in an attorney. Another question is, what is the fees for structuring a new LLC in the future when I purchase real estate, as an example? So we do not set up LLCs, but we do have third-party companies that we work with that can help set up LLCs. Or if you want to set up the LLC on your own, you can, and then we will provide instructions on how to properly structure or align that LLC with your trust. Let's see, what other parts of the macro planning method do you support or coordinate? Is that under a separate program? So no, legacy lock and estate planning is part of the macro planning method. So if you enter through that door, so to speak, then you get access to all the other services in the macro planning method. So in the macro planning method, you get access to our retirement planning and investment team. Obviously, Garda Wealth, which helps with life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care. You get access to our specialists with health and Medicare insurance, also home and auto and liability insurance, funeral planning. You get access to our experts in cash flow management area, as well as our tax mitigation planning team. So by engaging with us, you get access to that whole macro planning method and our whole macro planning team. State laws change. How do you keep up with changes in all 50 states to ensure the documents you produce meet the current laws? Another great question. So fortunately, estate planning's been around for a long, long time, many decades. And fortunately, most states don't make changes very often. So that makes it kind of easy to deal with. But when there is a change in any given state, which does happen, we have an estate planning attorney. He's our chief compliance officer that we retain, and he's a Harvard Law graduate. Anyways, it's his job, him and his team, make sure that if there are any changes that we are immediately notified, it's updated in our system, and then we can reach out to clients that we have in that particular state to make sure that we notify them and get the documents updated and set up according to those changes. Okay, another question here. Once I pass away, will my successor trustee have to set up a new trust so the trust can continue to and through future generations? Great question. The answer is most likely yes. It just won't necessarily be the same trust. It won't be your trust. It'll probably be trust for the beneficiaries that will be receiving your assets. It will be important that they set up trusts, which we can help them do, and make sure that all of their assets are properly aligned and structured within that trust. And that can help make sure that everything carries on into future generations. Another question here. A lot of the webinar focused on revocable living trust. Do you create wills in lieu of revocable living trust? So as I mentioned in this presentation, we provide the wills and the trust. So we provide the last will and testament and pour over will, as well as the living will, which is the advanced directives. So it's really a complete estate planning package. If the question is, do we only do wills? Like, is there an a la carte type option? At this time, no. Our team is working on developing that. So in the future, we will have the ability to, select, a la carte documents for, any given situation. We get asked all the time, do you provide special needs planning? And the answer is yes. We have the ability to put in place special needs provisions in the documents. So if any of you have children with special needs and they're currently receiving government benefits, those provisions become very important to have, because if they were to receive an inheritance and those provisions are not in place, it could kick them off their benefits. So that's the reason we have those provisions, so that they can still be included in the estate plan. There can be a specific plan for them and for their benefit. But those provisions basically stipulate that if once you pass away, their portion of the inheritance should remain in the trust and only be used as needed, so as to not kick them off their benefits. So, and that's also just part of the $2,000 fee. A lot of attorneys will actually charge more to help if there's any special needs planning that needs to be done. It's all just included in our flat fee.
So, and then just remember from when we were ending, there's one, the estate planning checklist is if you're not quite ready, and we have the link there as well in the QR code. But if you're looking to get on the phone with Casey to actually do your consultation, that has all that in there as far as the analysis, that's the first QR code.